Okay, I think actually I need to plug my headphones in here so you guys can hear me. Okay, I think I'm on live here. I'll back up a little bit. Sorry, you can see my crazy fan in the background. It looks like I have stuff coming out of my head, but that's okay. So I was going to try to do this from Zoom, but it didn't work, so it's all good. But I am Jamie Pitts, and I'm a book coach. And so I'm going to talk to you tonight about writing your book, or why you haven't written your book, and what are some of the things that you can do to get started. What are some of the blocks that might be coming up? What are some ways that you can work through those blocks? Because you're going to have to work through those blocks to eventually get your book written. But I'm going to start with a little bit of my story. And it'll probably make sense as to maybe what's getting in the way with your story and you writing your book. Here, let's see if we can turn this way a little bit. Okay, so like I said, I am sorry about that. Fan is just disgusting. I am a book coach, but I am also an entrepreneur. I also work a more than full-time job right now. And I'm a mom of a teenager. But my story really started when I was about 3.5, almost 4. And I was in my room playing dress up, which make-believe, always did, had great costumes. And I was just fully engaged in what I was doing. And my dad came into the room, and he said, "Your brother's sick." And I just looked at him because I didn't really know what it meant. But what I found out, or what I made it mean for me, was that my parents no longer could love me because they needed to love my brother, because my brother was sick, and if you're sick, you get love. So love means sick. And then later what I made that mean was I'm on my own, and I don't need anyone else, and I can do this all myself. So I built my world to fit that need, and I did a really good job. I pushed everyone away, and one of the things that became my friend was food. And so eventually, actually, when I was 8, my mom put me on Weight Watchers, so my up and down battle with my weight kind of started at that point, in this love-hate relationship with food, and the fact that I was on my own and needed to do all this myself. So I started looking for what would make me happy, and I started with weight loss, and I figured that would make me happy and fix everything. So I started exercising, and probably to excess, and lost a bunch of weight, and I still felt empty. It didn't do it. It wasn't the fix-all. It wasn't, in fact, I got a lot of male attention that I wasn't expecting and wasn't prepared for, and made me really uncomfortable. So I started to gain some weight after that, and still just kept looking for what it was that was going to make me happy. So I went to college and thought I would become a writer. Hi, all of you guys. I cannot see who's on here for some reason, but I appreciate all of you guys. Hi. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you guys watching. So I'm just telling a little bit about my story, and then it'll make sense, kind of maybe what's getting in your way and keeping you from writing your book. But I just was on this quest to find out what would make me happy. And I had my son when I was 32, so kind of fast forward a little bit. And he took my face in his hands one day, and he said, "You are the greatest mom in the whole world." And at that point, there was a shift that started to happen. And I realized, you know what, I am worthy, and I am an amazing person, and I do have something to contribute. So that's kind of started the ball rolling, but it still wasn't it. It still wasn't what made me happy. And then about 3 years after I had my son, I was diagnosed with endometriosis and just got really sick and started to gain a whole bunch more weight. And okay, a little bit of video difficulty here. Bear with me here for just a second. Okay, we shouldn't have any more problems. Sorry about that, you guys. But I appreciate you joining. So anyway, I'll go back to kind of where I was. So I was doing, this up and down weight loss thing, and started to realize, thank you for all the hearts, those are so great, that I did have something to contribute, and that I did have value as a mom and as a person. But then I was getting sick, more and more sick as time went on as well, and gaining weight, and so still trying to figure out like what it is that's going to make me happy. And at that point, I ended my marriage with my son's dad, and thought maybe being on my own would be it, and ended up getting remarried, and we fought all the time. So it wasn't love, it wasn't weight, so what was it that was going to make me happy? And so in the meantime, I had these major surgeries. I did a lap band that failed, and then I finally did gastric bypass in 2012, along with some eye surgery and some other things. And I lost 134 pounds. And I started to get my life back, but I didn't have the final surgery. And I thought, okay, this is it, right? I've lost all this weight. I've like arrived, right? It still didn't make me happy. And so what happened was, about probably 9 months into, losing all that weight, I looked at my life and I was actually horrified, because I saw that I had given my son all of my bad habits, and my son was being teased, and he had gained all this weight, and he felt horrible about himself. So what I did was, we did a vegan challenge, and that's the point I decided to write my book, because it was like, it was enough. Like I had enough. And I kept trying to find happiness in all these different things, like weight loss and jobs and money and love and relationships and everything. If you notice, all outside of me, nothing inside of me. So I really started to take a look inside of me. Well, in order to do that, I decided to write my story and to write my book. And what I didn't realize, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the things that happen as a result of you telling your story, you can't even explain it. Like, it's different for everybody, but it is incredible. And the benefits, if you don't ever sell a copy and you use it maybe to help build your business or whatever that is, the other benefits outweigh any, like selling tons of copies or whatever. So through all of this, I never had a relationship with my mom. We always fought. We always argued. And so I started to tell my story. And as I started to tell my story, a lot of it was from a young child's point of view. And then, as I got more into my weight loss story and what went on with my son, and then when we did this vegan challenge, he lost 4 shirt sizes and 3 pant sizes, or the other way around. Anyway, he got his life back, he got his health back, and he took his personal power back. And so the book really became about my personal power and not giving it away and not taking other people's personal power. So that was a huge realization for me. But then in doing that, it really opened up a dialogue for my mom and I to talk about what had happened throughout our life together. Because we basically grew up together. We're about 20 years apart, almost to the week. And so now I've given my son his personal power back. I've taken my personal power back. And I've realized that happiness is an inside job, not something external. It doesn't have to do with the numbers on your paycheck or the love in your life. I mean, those things come as you decide to, take care of yourself and own up to yourself. But telling my story has just changed everything. So my mom and I have this incredible relationship now. I'm an artist also, and you can see I got some art on the walls around me, and I'm kind of in my studio now, but so we like write mushy text together, like to each other all the time, and we've taken art classes together. I mean, it's just incredible. And the relationship I have with my teenager is off the chain. Like, teenagers typically don't like their parents. My kid just loves me, and we will have like movie night, or we'll go do something, or we'll just sit and talk. And to me, that's priceless. Those things came when I decided to write my book and tell my story. So I'm telling you, that's what's available for you when you decide to write your story and tell your story. And so there's a million reasons why people don't write them. And I think, let's see, I'm going to grab it really quick and see if I can pull it up here. Some of the reasons people don't write their book. And it's amazing. So where do I even begin? How do I do this alone? How do I write about myself? I don't like public speaking. My story is too boring, too detailed, too much for people to handle. I've never had a near-death experience. I probably can't write a book. I mean, these are the things that we come up with, right? Which is all self-imposed reasons not to do it. But the thing to do is to take some action. And so I'm going to give you some tools that'll allow you to take action. And I'm also going to give you a writing exercise. So I want you guys to try this. We're not going to do it now because I don't want to stop the video for 5 minutes or 3 minutes to do it. But if you guys have a pen and paper and write it down, or you can watch the replay. So, okay, so we're going to do this. We'll start with this exercise, and then we'll talk about some other things to get the writing going. But so what you want to do is what I want you to do is ask, what am I going to get from writing my story? Or why should I tell my story? Or why do I want to tell my story? Something that's personal to you about telling your story or writing your book. Why do I want to be an author? Why is it important to get my story out? What is it about my story that's important to tell? Something like that. So it's a question. You're going to pose a question, okay? And then I'm going to give you 3 words. And if you aren't able to write these down, you can just pick 3 words, but I'll give you the rules and how it works. Okay, so the 3 words are, let's see, I'm going to give you oracle is one, candle is another, and change is the 3rd one. So oracle, candle, and change are the 3 words that I'm giving you, but you can use 3 other words, it's fine. But here's the rules. So you're going to have the question, and then you're going to have the 3 words. Now you have to use one of the 3 words in the very first sentence when you write, okay? So the way that it works is you're going to write it, you're going to set a timer for 3 to 5 minutes. 3 is fine if you want to start with 3. Some people just go, oh my gosh, how am I going to write for 5 minutes? I don't have anything to say. So you can start with 3 if the 5 freaks you out, or if you want to go for it, start with 5. So you're going to set a timer. So you have to use all 3 words somewhere in the writing that you do, but you have to pick one of the 3 words to actually start. So that's going to be the first word. So if it was dark, it would be dark and stormy night is how you would start it. Okay. And then you're just going to write continually, and you're going to answer that question as you're going to think about that question as you write, and you're going to use those 3 words. Okay. So that's the writing exercise. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of different ways to do it. So you're going to just do it straight up, just like that. Okay, so 3 words, 3 minutes on the timer, a question about why I should tell my story, why I should write my book, and then you're going to write for 3 minutes and no stopping. And if I don't know what to write, I can't think of anything to say, I don't know what I'm going to write, like, you just keep writing. You're just not going to stop, but you're going to focus on that question when you start, and you're going to use one of those 3 words to start, and you have to use all 3 words somewhere in your writing. When the timer stops, you stop. Okay, now I also would like you to try that exercise, okay, and doing something creative, okay, and so I'm going to talk about that. Doing something creative is really my secret sauce, and it's how I got my book written. So I told you I was an artist. I'm a painter. And so when I originally started to write, I had gone to school for journalism, and I've written on and off, and I've written articles and all kinds of stuff throughout my life. But every time I sat down to write my book, nothing would ever come. It was just blank page, blank page, blank page. And so when I started to paint, I never had a blank canvas. I never had the same issues with art that I did with my writing. And so I was so engrossed in my art and doing my art that when I decided to really write my book and take action, the book flew. It just flew. And there's ways that you can do it that you don't have to write it in order, and you don't have to get stuck. And this idea of the blank page never happens in the process that I use and when I work with clients. And I'll just give you a little tidbit. I'm starting a group in the first week of February. We'll go for a quarter. By the end of the quarter, you'll have your book written. So that's my process. So it takes about a quarter, just because I usually work with people that are working or really busy doing other projects. So it doesn't matter what your schedule looks like, because I work somewhere between 50 and 80 hours a week, and I still have time to write, and you can still write your book with that kind of schedule. Okay, so the second way you're going to do the exercise is you're going to do something creative. So, and I know you guys all have some stuff creative, but one of the easiest ways to do it is like the adult coloring books. I don't know if you could this is a Christmas one. But this is probably the fastest way, and I think every writer should have some I know they should have some creative tools in their toolbox. So it's not just a pencil or a computer or an editing software or making your space perfect. It's about having something that's creative as well in your toolbox. Super, super important. So the second exercise, you're going to spend some time doing something creative. And like I said, the adult coloring book is probably the easiest thing to do. It's just like every other adult coloring book out there. You can get them at Michael's. You can get them at Walmart. You can get them at the airport now. So you're going to spend some time doing something creative with your hands, whether that's drawing, painting, coloring with crayons, using colored pencils, using an ink, like a pen, any kind of pen, I have tons of them, a Sharpie, it doesn't matter these kind of markers, whatever. Okay, so you're going to spend some time doing something creative. Then you're going to write your sentence. You're going to pick 3 words. You're going to use set your timer for 3 to 5 minutes, and then you're going to use one of those words as the very first word to start your writing. And you're going to use the other 2 words throughout. So, let's see. Oh, okay, I'm going to read some of the comments. So, but that's the second way I want you to do the exercise. And then I want you guys to comment down here when you get a chance to do the exercise and how it went. Okay, so Pam, let's see, I figured my story is too much for others to handle or myself to handle. Okay, so I'm really glad that you said that, because when I went back I'm going to relaunch my book in working with a publisher. And so when I went back to do editing, a lot of those emotions came up. And so, I just have some tools that you can use to work with it. So yes, is it going to get emotional sometimes? Absolutely, if you're telling your story. Is it more than you can handle? No, nobody has more than they can handle. And I've seen some crazy things. One of the things I do, what I do full time is I help place people in temporary housing when their house, something happens. And I work in California. So I've been helping the California people in Northern California with the fires, and now in Southern California. And I have people who got out with less than 20 minutes probably to make it under golf ball size embers. So, we're amazing as human beings, and we don't give ourselves enough credit. We can take anything that comes our way. And when you have a tool belt and how to deal with some of those things and know that they're coming, it makes it a heck of a lot easier. And writing is honestly one of the best therapeutic ways to work through the stuff that comes up. So, is it too much for people to handle? No. Because there's ways to do it. So if it gets too detailed, like if you don't want to affect a family member. Like, this is something that writers say to me all the time. Like, I don't want to offend my family or upset my family with things that went on in the past. Well, what went on in the past that you believe went on in the past is your version of what went on in the past. And it may be from an 8-year-old's point of view. It may be from a teenager's point of view. It may just be your point of view, but it's your point of view and it's what happened to you. So it's not right or wrong. It's just what happened to you. And so there's ways that we can discuss things and not hurt other people and just benefit ourselves by getting the story out. And there's always somebody that will benefit from your story. Even if you don't think that your story is important, stories are what makes us human. Stories are how we share our lives. And we've gotten so focused on phones and impersonal communication that we forgot this whole idea of stories. We told stories since the dawn of time, since we could ever communicate, even nonverbal stories. And then when, printing presses came out, then we started to write our stories. So our stories educate, they entertain, they help us cope, they make us laugh, they make us cry. And so if you have a lot of journals, that's one of the things too that we can go through is look at those and start to pick stuff out, and you can start to pick stuff out too and just kind of organize. I do an interesting outline to work on your book, and then we don't necessarily write the book in the order in which it finally gets published. So we may write it that looks like this, but it will be published in a format that makes sense. But that's one of the processes that I use. So let's see. Is he worried about telling a story? Open wounds. Okay. Yeah. That's a possibility, but there's ways in getting the information out and ways in helping you heal and telling the story that don't harm other people. So there's definitely ways to do it. And then one of the things that people tell me is I don't write well. Well, there's so many tools now that you don't even need to write your book. You can just speak your book and get it done that way. So, but Pamela, that's you bring up some really good questions, and I get this a lot because I work with people to tell their own story. Eventually, I'll have some some fiction groups, but what I work with is people who are entrepreneurs, mompreneurs, who are spiritualpreneurs, and really need to get their story out. So I definitely have. Was all false. Okay. But there's definitely ways to tell the story and not hurt them, but really to help you heal too. And it can also be told in ways if you want it to be a tool to help them heal. Like my book and the process I went through to write my book was very healing for my son. And I didn't know he was being bullied until I started writing the book and all of this came out. So, there's just so much available when you tell your story. I just, until you start to go through the process, it's hard to explain what's available for you. I can just tell you what happened to me, and it was priceless. Honestly, the changes that, like I said, just having my mom back and just empowering my son makes his own nutritional decisions now, and they're so powerful. And it's so great because I'm not going to be there when he's in college, and I'm not going to be there when he grows up. And so he only has himself. And empowering your boys, priceless. So they don't experience that with their kids, and it also gives them their personal power back. It's funny, as moms, it's easy for us to take and give power so easily, but if we just are in a place where we're able to just have everyone have their own power when they're around us, and we have our own power, we just live from such a better place, and such a place that's so filled with love and gratitude. So Let's see. I went through. Yep. Let's see. Yeah, I used to write a lot more when I was younger too, and then I just stopped. We get so busy, but there's so many great tools. So Jennifer, I really appreciate you bringing that up. And Pamela, I know that there's healing possible from telling your story for sure. I only did my book as an ebook, and you can actually see it on Kindle. It's Stop, Drop, Live. And so mine is only electronic book. The next book that I write will be both. And you can do a variety of things. So I did a lot through social media, and I can help with that as well. I can hook you up with a publisher after you've done your book if you want to do it that way. And then book tours are super fun, and you can just do them in your local area. So it depends on the topic of your book. It depends on who your book relates to. Like my story ended up, being related to teenagers and bullying and eating and health and all. So, that my book could be used almost as a workbook too. So it just depends on kind of how it comes out and, how you want to use it too. So, and if they're not ready now, you can start your healing and Pamela, and then what may come out of that is a book that helps kids as a secondary book go through what your boys went through, and that's where more of the healing will come through them. So let's see. I wrote a manuscript for a book on nature, divination, but I would. Yeah. So and that's something that happens too. So when you write your book, you'll end up with material that you can use if you want to use that in some type of practice, especially you guys, if you're doing a spiritual practice. And Pamela, I don't know if you have a spiritual practice or you're interested in doing that or doing some healing, but that book can be definitely used as that. So, because Marissa brings up a really good point in that, and mine actually works like a workbook too. I just didn't become a health coach. I'm just so passionate about people telling their story because I had so many amazing things happen to me from telling my story. I would rather help people tell their story than be a health coach. I just get lit up when I talk to people about what's possible about writing your book. So, okay. So I think, Pamela, yours is going to be like probably like at least a 2-part thing. And there might be, I don't know, I'm going to use my intuition here because that's what we do as spiritualpreneurs for sure. But I think that there's a kid's book. And I have a cousin who was kidnapped by his dad and actually taken to Arizona when we lived in California. And nothing was ever discussed. It was kind of swept under the rug. And I think that's something that is needed, hugely needed. And that's, if I can implore you for yourselves, our world needs our stories. Ladies, we are super powerful and we have super strong stories. And our world, if you haven't noticed, needs them for sure. And I don't know if there's men watching, absolutely men can tell their stories too, but our stories are so needed, not just for us, but for other people. And if you don't think your story is relatable to somebody else, you'd be shocked. You'd be completely shocked because I have come across so many women and connected with them now that have a similar story. I mean, I spent 15 years being sick in and out of ERs and hospitals and operating rooms and in bed and out of bed and in work and all of that. So, see, I already published a book about being a child psychic. Oh, that's awesome. And I think that that's something that people don't talk about either. My son sees people's energy, and he can heal energy, and he gets taken to go heal energy. And I think a lot of our children, because we don't talk about this as adults, sorry, my eyes are watering like crazy. I think they push those things down and they lose them, and then we have to re-find them as adults. And so, Victoria, I applaud you for that. And if that's where your passion is, we need more information about that for our kids, for sure. Because that is something we definitely oppress, because it's not the norm. It's not talked about. It's not as accepted. It is more now so. But like when I was a kid, we didn't talk about that. My grandmother was very spiritual. My mom's very spiritual. And we just didn't talk about it. And so I've had to rediscover a lot of my gifts as an adult. And I've done it through my son, because I created the space where my son was safe to be who he is and develop those gifts. And so, that's another reason to tell our story, because there might be some of that stuff in there that we can share with other people, and really start to open that up too. And, talk about intuition, talk about our gifts. So, I will put a link, but you guys can always instant message me and ask me questions. I'm happy to help. And if you need some direction on psychic abilities, is unfortunately, it's very much the norm, Victoria. And I have worked really hard not to do that for my son and not create that kind of space. I want him to have a safe space where he can explore those different things. And sometimes he's pushed it away and said, it's taking a lot of my energy. It's taking a lot of my time. So for now, I'd really like to just be a teenager. And then, and then it's come back. And so it's been really interesting to watch him develop. And as a result of him doing it, my gifts have come back and been stronger, too, because I pushed them away as a kid, for sure, because they weren't cool. They weren't appropriate. So, I'm glad, Pamela. But you guys, please message me or ask me questions on here. I'm going to go through everybody's comments and questions, and I will definitely reply to all of those. If you need some help in the marketing direction, social media direction with your book, I can help with that. Or I can guide you to like a publisher who does that. And then as far as my book group, so the book group will run from the first week of February all the way through to the first week of May. And we'll kind of wrap things up. And then if somebody needs more time, we can obviously do that as well. But by the time you finish the group, you'll have a book completed. And the group is for that time to write your book and to go through the group coaching and have coaching with me as well. Will be $2,700, and I'll put a link below or whatever. But you guys will save $700. So it'll be $2,000, and it'll be for 3 months of coaching. So, which is a pretty good deal. And I have a master's in teaching. I didn't share that, but, but anyway, you guys, really, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And, Pamela, I think there's some interesting things coming for you, for sure. But you guys try the writing exercises. And let me know how those go. And so try it without doing anything creative, and then try it doing something creative for a few minutes, like 5 minutes beforehand, and then do the writing exercises again. And I'm going to go over that really quickly just to summarize. So you're going to write a question like, why should I tell my story? Why is it important to get it out? Or some kind of question related to writing your book. And then you're going to use 3 words. I think we used oracle, candle, and change. If you want to use those, or you can pick 3 of your own. You're very welcome, Victoria. Thank you so much. And then you're going to write for 3 to 5 minutes, and you're going to use one of those words as the very first start of your writing. And then I want to know how much you write and what happens. You guys have a great night, and I really appreciate you being on, but I'm not going to keep everybody really late. But again, feel free to message me. I'm happy to answer questions. And I wish all of you guys so much success and just an amazing 2018, because we're right on the verge. So thank you very much, ladies, and I really appreciate you guys spending the time with me. So, all right, bye-bye.